Hey guys, and welcome to my Dragonite main tank build for Wrathstone, for Trials and Dungeons. In this guide, we're just going to go over the basics of tanking. We're not going to do anything too advanced. We're going to do a later video on that. In this guide, we're just going to talk about races, attributes, gear, skills, and CP. And at the end, we'll have a generic how to tank for if you're just learning to tank and you're not sure how to keep up all your debuffs and keep the aggro of all the mobs at the same time. So for races, as you can see, I'm an Argonian. However, for a tank, you can tank on whatever race you want. So if you want to tank on a Khajiit, by all means, go for it. We don't gain as much from our racial passives as, for example, a damage dealer or a healer does. However, in my opinion, the top three races for tanking are Argonian, Nord, and Imperial, and that's just because all of your three passives are going to benefit you on a tank, be it sustain, be it healing, be it tankiness. But as I said, if you want to tank on a Khajiit, if you want to tank on a Bosmer, don't let anyone tell you that you can't, because you 100% can. So now, onto our attributes. As you can see, I have 64 points in health. This is personally where I like to be as a tank. I have 19.5k magicka, which is more than enough for me to keep up all my spells. 21.1k stamina, I don't run out while I'm tanking unless I'm being really silly. And then a really decent sized health pool, so I shouldn't get one shot. For our Mundustone, I run the Atronach, and that's just for our magicka recovery, but really again this is a personal preference. You can run something like the Lord, you can run the Steed, it's just what you personally find to work for you on a tank. For our food, we use and increase all of our stats because we're going to use everything as a resource, and if we go into my inventory here, the potions we use most of the time is the Tri-Stat pot, so we just get all those resources back up. Let's move on to gear. I'm going to talk about 2 or 3 sets that we mainly use. The rest of the sets are going to be in the description below. I really don't want to drag this video out talking about every single set that we can use on a main tank. One of our main sets that we use, especially if we are the only tank, is going to be Ebon Armory. This drops in Crypt of Hearts. You can farm this on normal if you want. I use the 5 body pieces, and that means no matter what bar I'm on, we're always going to get that 5th part active at all times. The reason we use Ebon is not only because it increases our own health, but it also is going to increase the health for all of the people in our party, making them way more survivable. Our monster set is going to be Lord Warden. This drops in Imperial City Prison, so you are going to need the DLC for this, but it's really worth it because it's a really strong set. Not only does it increase our own resistances, but when we take damage, we have a 50% chance to summon a big circle that increases the resistances for all our party members that are going to be stood inside it. So it's really useful, making them a lot more tankier. So one of our other main 5 sets that we're going to use, you're going to need a DLC for this, guys, I'm sorry, it's going to be Alkosh. This drops in more of Lore Cache, and it's a really strong set for a tank to use, especially if you're going to be on the boss for a long time. We don't care about the 2 set, we don't care about the 3 set, and we don't even care about the 4 set. And truth be told, we don't even care about most of the 5th set. The only part we care about is right at the end where it says reduces the physical and spell resistance of any enemy hit by 3010 for 10 seconds. This is a really strong debuff because our job as a tank is to try and get that resistance of the boss down and down and down so our DDs can go full damage and they can just nuke the boss down as fast as they can. On our jewelry, for our trait, there's a few that we can use. I'm just lazy and I stay robust, and also because I'm an Argonian, I don't get any stamina from my racial passives, so if I was to go Triune for example, I'd have to go and change up my attributes, and as I said, I'm very lazy. So you can use Robust, you can use Triune, you can use Harmony, you can use Swift. Experiment with your traits, guys, find out what works the best for you. For our enchant, however, I strongly recommend using the Shield Play enchant. As you can see, it reduces the cost of bash and reduces the cost of block. So you're going to be taking a lot of damage, you're going to be blocking a lot, you need to reduce that cost. You don't want to take 2 hits from a mob and you'll be just drained of stamina. So this really helps reducing that cost and making your stamina sustain a lot better. So since we are a tank, we are going to have to go a 1 hand and a shield on our front bar. This is just so we get our main taunt, as I'll go over later. And our back bar is a flexi spot. I use a lightning staff. You can use another 1 hand and shield if you really want. You can use a bow. You can use an ice staff. It's up to you. But just keep in mind, something I'm going to talk about now Two-hander on the back bar is going to be better this patch, okay? As you can see, my trait on my back bar is infused and my enchant is Crusher enchant. As you can see, again, this reduces the target's physical and spell resistance by 2108 for 5 seconds. So if we go to my front bar and we look at my sword, you can see that that enchant is halved, and that's because with Wrathstone they halved the enchant potency on one hand. So for us to get the most benefit out of Crusher, we're going to have to put it on a two-hand. Just bear that in mind. If you're running two one-handed shields, you're not going to get the full benefit from Crusher, which is one of our most important debuffs. And infused, this just makes the enchant even stronger, and it means we can proc it even more. Okay, and now for our last set that I would say is a main set that you would use as a tank, especially if you have an off-tank who is already running Ebon, is Torugs Pact. This is a really strong set for a main tank to use. We don't care about the spell damage, the max health is nice, the spell resistance doesn't really matter, we're going to be at cap anyway. It's the 5th set that really makes a difference. Decreases the weapon enchant cooldown and increases its potency by 30%. This is really strong. If I actually equip this now, if I just go over here, I put Torugs and Alkosh on, we go to our back bar, if we look at that Crusher now, look, it's now 2740. So it's increased that even more. So it's really important. If there's another tank with Ebon in, Torugs is a really strong set to use. So let's move on to skills. Our front bar is our one-handed shield bar, so this is where we're going to put our main melee taunt, Pierce Armor. Not only is this our taunt, but it also afflicts the enemy with Major Fracture and Major Breach, which is going to reduce their physical and spell resistance by 5280. This is a really strong debuff, and this is what we want to keep up with Pierce Armor. We don't worry about the 15-second taunt, we want to keep up this debuff, so we're going to cast this at least every 12 seconds, making sure that we're always debuffing the enemy. Our second skill is going to be Heroic Slash. This is a debuff and a buff for ourselves. It debuffs the enemy with Minor Maim, which reduces their damage done by 15%, which is really strong. But not only that, it's going to give us Minor Heroism, which is going to give us one ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 9 seconds. Which is really useful because we want to try and use our Warhorn, which is going to be our main ultimate, as much as we can, especially in a dungeon where you might be the only person running Warhorn. Our third skill is going to be Balance. This is a bit of a hit and miss skill. This is going to be one of our main self buffs. We're going to increase our physical and spell resistance by 5280, but the downside of it is it does cost health to use, but on the upside, we are going to get magicka back, so this is going to be our way of sustaining our magicka. Our fourth skill is Green Dragon Blood, and this is going to be our main heal. You can swap this out for Vigor if you really want, but I really like Green Dragon Blood for just that burst heal. If you just get bombarded by attacks, get low, as you can see, it heals you for your missing health, so the lower your health, the bigger this heal gets. So if you're getting just bombarded by attacks, you get to 10%, you're going to use this and you're just going to go nearly right back up to full health. Whereas if you use something like Vigor, that's just a heal over time. It might not be strong enough to give you that burst heal right back up to full health. So our fifth skill is going to be Igneous Shields. You can use the other morph if you want. I just prefer this morph for the bigger shield. It's going to give you a damage shield which absorbs a lot of damage coming in. And it's also going to be our source of major mending, increasing our healing done to ourselves and to other people by 25%. Not only this, Igneous Shields is a really good utility skill, because if we go to the Earth and Heart passives here, when you cast an Earth and Heart ability, you and your group gain Minor Brutality for 20 seconds, increasing your weapon damage by 10%. Dragon Knights are the only class in the game which give this buff, so it's really useful. It's going to help your stamina do that more damage. But not only that, when we are in combat, we also generate 3 ultimate every 6 seconds. So we want to use Igneous Shields round about every 6 seconds so that we just keep getting ulti, just keep gaining ulti. And then if we look at our last passive, Helping Hands, when we cast an Earth and Heart ability, you're going to restore 990 stamina, so it's also a way for us to regain our stam. Our front bar ulti, there's going to be a few things that we can use. I personally like Temporal Guard, Not so much to use, because we're going to use our backbar ulti mainly. It's for this passive. While slotted, you gain minor protection, reducing your damage taken by 8%. I think this is really strong. I like this a lot. If you're not a massive fan of it, then you can use Magma Shell, which is basically God mode for a tank. You pop this, nothing that hits you can do more than 3% of your max health of damage, and you're also going to give all your allies 100% of their max health as a shield for 9 seconds. So, our backbar. This is where a lot of our utility skills are going to be, so let's have a look. Our first skill, Inner Rage. This is our range taunt. This is if something is too far away for us to melee taunt, this is the skill we're going to use so that they run to us and not to a DD and slap them in the face. Our second skill, Unrelenting Grip. This is our pull skill, so if you want to make a really fast stack of mobs, you don't want to wait for them to run to you, or maybe there's an archer or a mage at the back shooting you with a ranged ability, this is what you're going to use to pull them in and stack them, okay? Not only this, it's also going to give us Major Expedition, increasing our movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. It's a nice little buff. If you chain everything in and then you just want to run to the next pull, it gives us a nice little boost. But the really nice thing about this is because DDs can CC mobs, or mobs can be too big to chain, if you cannot pull the target, it's a free cast. You're going to restore all your magicka, so you're not wasting magicka going, why can't I chain this guy in? Why am I at no magicka now? So it's really, really good to get this morph. Our third skill, Choking Talons. This is going to be an AoE source of mine and maim, reducing their damage done again by 15% for 7 seconds. But not only that, it's going to root the enemies so that they can't move, okay? So if you pull everything in, you Choking Talons them, they can't then just run out and then you have to spend time pulling them all back in again. Just keep them Talons right in near you and your DDs can just AoE them down. Our fourth skill is a really, really strong debuff. It's Engulfing Flames. Now you only get this on a DK, which is why in my opinion that makes them a really good main tank. We're not using this for the damage, we're using this for the debuff. Affected enemies take 10% more damage from all fire damage attacks. So not only does this increase all your magicka's spells, it's also going to increase their light attack damage, which is usually going to be their top DPS skill. So it's a really, really strong debuff that you really want to try and keep up 100% of the time. So our fifth skill is kind of our flexi spot. It really depends on what you're running on your back bar. If you're running a bow, if you're running a staff, if you're running another one-hand and shield. I'm running a staff, so I use Blockade of Elements. In this case, Blockade of Storms, because I'm using a lightning staff. I use a lightning staff most of the time because we can set concussed enemies off balance, giving our DDs just a little more damage. But that's not the main reason we use it. The main reason we use it is because this is a place it and forget about it skill, and what it's going to do, whenever our backbar enchant, Crusher, is on cooldown, our Blockade of Elements is going to proc it. So we don't have to worry about coming back to our backbar every 5 seconds, doing a light attack. As long as Blockade of Storms is up and it hits the boss, it's going to apply that debuff. If you're using a bow, this is where you can put Endless Hail. There's going to be a list of other skills in the description below that you can use. Again, I don't want to drag this video out talking about every single flexi spot that we have. And finally, but not least, is going to be Aggressive Warhorn. Now you need to go to PvP for this. You need to get Alliance War rank 4. This is your main ulti. This is the bread and butter, what you're always going to use on a support unless you're going to die and you need to pop something like a Magma Shell. This increases everyone's magicka and stamina by 10%, and not only that, it grants everyone in your party Major Force, which increases their critical damage done by 15% for 9 seconds. Now with the changes to DDs now, a lot of DDs are running Shadow. It makes this even stronger than it was before, so you want to try and keep this buff up as much as you can. But don't overcast your horns because you still want to keep up that magicka and stamina buff 100% of the time. So last but not least, let's talk about our CP. This is going to be just generic CP that you can take to dungeons and most trials. Again, we're going to do another video later doing more advanced tactics, so we're going to go over CPs that you'll use in, for example, Asylum Sanctorium and in Cloud Rest, stuff like that. But this is just a bog standard CP that you can take most places and it's going to work completely fine. So if we start in the red here, We're going to go 66 in Ironclad. A lot of damage we take is going to be direct damage, so we just bump this up and make sure that we don't get one shot. 26 in Spell Shield. We don't need to put too many in here because as a Dragon Knight, we do gain 3,300 spell resistance just for being a Dragon Knight. So you're going to get to cap resistances no matter what. 56 Hardy, 56 Elemental Defender. This reduces your damage taken from basically all attacks, physical, poison, disease, and then Elemental Defender, Flame, Frost, Shock, and Magic. You don't need to put too many in this. I'd say any more than 56 is overkill. Get that 12%. Thick Skin to 28. Again, damage over time effects. Get that base 12%. It's going to do you just fine. 19 in Quick Recovery because, you know, increased healing received is always good. Healers healing you for more is never a bad thing. And then I had some spare over, so, you know, we were lacking a little bit in physical resistance. We might not always be at that cap physical resistance, so I just threw them in here because where else was I going to put them? But again, these 19 points you can put wherever you want. You can put more in Thick Skin, you can put more in Ironclad, you can put more in Spell Shield. It's completely up to you. This is just a basic CP. Change this to whatever you want to fit your needs. In the green tree, we have 21 Warlord, 21 Bashing Focus. These are just utility. Reduces the cost of bash. You're going to be bashing a lot. Reduces the cost of break free. You're not going to get stunned too much as a tank, but if it does happen, you don't want it to cost an absolute, just extortionate amount of stamina to where you can't do anything after you break free. Middle tree, these are going to be where our recoveries are. So 23 in Mooncough for our stamina recovery. Bear in mind, when you are blocking, your stamina recovery is 0. So there's no point pumping like 100 into this thinking, oh, I'm just going to increase my stam sustain exponentially and I'm just never going to run out. No. Whenever you're blocking, your stam sustain is 0. 37 in Arcanist for magicka recovery. This is just for those moments where maybe I don't feel comfortable using balance. I don't think that it's just necessarily the right time. Or maybe I'm already at low health and I can't spam this and I need to get that Dragon Blood off. This extra recovery is going to help me. 43 in Tenacity. Again, whenever you heavy attack, you're just going to restore more resources. It's absolutely brilliant to have on a tank. But again, not too important. There's 2 more CP points that we really need, so we're not going to pump too much into this. And then our bread and butter, 2 CP points on a tank. 44 in Tumbling. We don't go too high in this because in some trials you're not going to roll dodge at all, but maybe you are a tank that likes to roll dodge. 44, again, bog standard, just base. It's going to help you out. But our main one, Shadow Ward, reduces the cost of block. We put 81 points in here. There's no point going up to 100 because that's 19 points that we can put elsewhere for 1% block cost reduction. It's not worth it. Put 81 in here and don't look back. Moving on to blue, 100 in Blessed increases your healing done. No point not putting 100 in. We want to heal as much as we can. 58 in Elfborn. We're not going to crit that much as a tank. Our crit's going to be very low. But if it does, having 58 in here really does help get us that burst heal back up. Then the rest of your points you can put wherever you want. You're not a DD, so I just plonked mine here. I've got 4 here for some reason. But these, they're not really going to do much. Again, when you block, you know, you're not going to use any of these skills here. Your main 2 is here. Keep in mind though, if you are going to use Vigor over Green Dragon Blood, put these points from Elfborn into Precise over here. Because as you see, increases your critical healing with stamina abilities. Vigor is a stamina ability, so bear that in mind if you're using Vigor. Put those points from Elfborn into here. Stack it up before your group gets there. This is going to give you that little boost to get to the next net. I can't do it, Sass. I'm a fucking idiot. You want to think I was English, right?